The stars over the planet Kirel burned cold and white, shining down on a research station deep in the frozen mountains. This was no ordinary lab. It belonged to the Zernax Empire, one of the oldest and most powerful alien civilizations in the galaxy. The Zernax had studied hundreds of species across thousands of planets. They believed they understood all life, but today, that belief was about to change. Inside the main research dome, the air buzzed with quiet energy. Tall, thin Zernax scientists moved around glowing screens and floating data slates. Their skin shimmered with a pale blue hue, and their four-fingered hands moved with speed and precision. They had no hair, no facial expressions, only large black eyes that blinked slowly. One of them, lead researcher Dr. Kilax, stood in front of a hologram that showed a strange double helix spinning slowly. He frowned, which for a Zernax meant, narrowing his eye membranes slightly. "This cannot be correct," he muttered. Another scientist floated over. "Is something wrong, Doctor?" Kilax pointed at the helix. "This is the genetic code of a species called human. It is full of errors. Look here. Unstable base pairs, wild mutations, repetitive sequences that serve no purpose. It is chaotic." The younger scientist, Zirak, looked confused. "And yet, the species still lives?" Kilax nodded slowly. "Not only lives, thrives, spreads, survives conditions that should destroy them." Zirak studied the screen closer. "That makes no sense. Genetic perfection leads to survival. This DNA should be a death sentence." Kilax tapped the screen again. "We recovered this from a wrecked human escape pod found near the edge of the neutral zone. We assumed the occupant was dead." But he turned to a second screen. A scan of a living human heart beating, brain active. "A female. She is alive, injured, but stable. We placed her in containment." Zirak's eyes widened. "You brought a human here? To Kirel?" Kilax nodded. "We must understand how this flawed species survives. What makes their DNA so wrong, and why it still works." Inside the containment cell, the human's name was Lieutenant Rain Carter. She was a soldier, part of Earth's frontier exploration force. Her mission had been to map deep space anomalies. But her ship was attacked by raiders. Her escape pod crash-landed. Now she was in a strange cold room with glowing walls and no windows. Rain sat on the bench, calm, her green eyes watching the ceiling. She had already figured out this was an alien facility. Her injuries had been treated kind of. Her left arm had been bandaged by something like a robotic arm, with no bedside manner. Still, she wasn't panicking. She knew fear wouldn't help here. "They're probably watching," she said softly to herself. "Might as well give them a show." She stood and stretched, testing her body. Sore, but alive. Her military training told her one thing: stay alert. Wait for your moment. The observation room. Zirak stared at Rain through the observation glass. "She is Tom. Most species would be terrified." Kilax nodded. "This calmness is part of the puzzle. Look at her vitals, no sign of panic. Number. Chemical spikes." Another scientist entered. "We should begin the scans." Kilax agreed. "Start with the genetic mapping. I want to see how her body repairs itself." He paused, then added, "Also, let's give her a mild biological challenge." Zirak blinked. "You mean infect her?" "A simple test. Something harmless to us, but enough to activate her immune system." Zirak hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, Doctor." The first test. Rain felt a tiny prick on her arm. She looked down. A barely visible hole had opened in the wall, and something had jabbed her. She didn't move. Minutes passed. Then she felt her muscles tighten. Her vision blurred slightly. "A fever? They dosed me," she whispered. "Sneaky bastards." But instead of fear, Rain gritted her teeth and focused. She had felt worse in training. Whatever was inside her, her body would fight it. She closed her eyes and controlled her breathing. Alien confusion on the upper level. Alarms started flashing. Kellax stared at the screen. Her immune response is off the charts. Zirak's jaw dropped. She's already creating antibodies at full speed. That's impossible. No species adapts this fast. Another scientist added, her DNA is rewriting protein chains we've never seen before. It's not defense. It's adaptation. Kellax stepped closer. Her genome is chaotic, unstable, but it reacts to everything. That chaos might be the reason she survives. Zirak looked shaken. So all those mutations, the errors, they're not mistakes? Kellax didn't answer. He was watching. The human's face on the screen. Rain opened her eyes and looked directly at the camera. Then she smiled, meeting the human later. They decided to speak with her. Not through translation machines, not through recordings. A direct meeting. Rain was led into a room with glowing walls and no visible doors. A floating drone hovered nearby, projecting the image of Kellax. You are Rain Carter, Kellax said slowly. She gave a small smirk. That's right, and you're the blue guys who poked me. Kellax blinked. You know we infected you? She shrugged. I figured. But it didn't work, did it? Kellax studied her. Why aren't you afraid? Rain leaned forward. Because fear is useful, but not forever. You think humans are broken. You look at our DNA and see mistakes. You don't understand us. Kellax asked, then tell me, what is it we're missing? Rain's smile widened. You're missing the truth. Chaos isn't a flaw. It's how we win. A dangerous idea back in the lab. Kellax walked in silence. Zirak followed. Doctor, what do we do now? Kellax's voice was quiet. We study more, but with caution. This species this human is not like the others. Zirak looked back at the cell on the monitor. Rain was doing push-ups now, laughing softly to herself. He shivered. We thought they were broken, he said. Kellax answered, maybe they are, but in the way that fire breaks darkness. Rain Carter sat cross-legged in her containment room. The walls glowed with soft blue light. No shadows, no corners. Just perfect alien design. Too perfect. She thought in the real world, things break, things shift. But this room didn't breathe. It didn't live. She placed a hand on the wall. Cold, smooth. They built this to control everything, she muttered. They don't understand chaos. Suddenly, a voice echoed from above. Human subject, prepare for transport. She stood up calmly. Finally, inside the Zernax testing chamber, Rain was moved to a round chamber full of soft lights, floating. Machines and glowing screens. Above her, a glass dome revealed black alien eyes watching. One of them was Dr. Kellax. Another, younger one, was Zirak. She appears healthy, said Kellax. She's more than healthy, Zirak replied. Her biology is adapting faster than we thought possible. Begin the next phase. Rain heard the humming sound increase. Something was scanning her bones, brain, blood. She didn't move. Then a hologram of her DNA appeared above the center of the room. It twisted and exploded into complex patterns. Zirak gasped. Look, her genome is changing right now. She's adapting to the lab's gravity, air, and radiation. Kellax narrowed his eyes. No species does that instantly. Rain looked up at them and smirked. You keep calling it broken, but your own scanners say different. Kellax replied, your DNA has too many errors. It is unstable. Rain stepped forward. Exactly. It's built for unstable worlds. Earth isn't soft. Life there is war, hunger, disaster, and we survived it all. She tapped her temple. We didn't evolve to be perfect. We evolved to be ready. Testing begins. Kellax nodded to the technicians. Start the variable stress tests. The chamber changed shape, Gravity increased. The temperature dropped to freezing, then soared to desert heat. Loud sounds blasted from hidden speakers. Random light flashes attacked her senses. Rain stumbled, coughed, and dropped to her knees. Zirak whispered, "She's struggling." Kallax nodded. She should break now. But Rain didn't stay down. She gritted her teeth, pushed herself up, and let out a short laugh. "Is that all you got?" Her heart pounded. Her muscles trembled. But her body adjusted. Within seconds, her heart rate stabilized. Her breathing calmed. Kallax stared. She should be in shock. Rain looked at the ceiling. "We call this Tuesday." Unexpected reaction. Shirak leaned close to the data feed. Doctor ... Look at her cellular response. It's faster than any recorded species. Her cells are predicting environmental shifts. She's adapting in real time. Kallax rubbed his chin. This is not evolution. This is biological war programming. Rain raised an eyebrow. Did you just figure that out? Kallax stared at her. Explain, she smiled. You thought DNA was just information, instructions, a blueprint. But for us, it's a weapon. Flashback memory. The fire test. Zirak suggested something new. Let's check her memory. Maybe her history explains this chaos. Kallax agreed. They activated a neural link. Rain resisted for a second, then let them in. What they saw stunned them. Flashes of burning cities. Humans running through gunfire. A young Rain pulling a wounded friend out of rubble. Training in Arctic storms. Swimming through floods. Fighting back despite broken bones. The pain, the fire, the death. It should have destroyed her, but she kept standing. Again and again. Zirak turned pale. They aren't just survivors. They're trained by chaos. Kallax's voice was quiet. Their errors ... armor. Rain's warning. The link ended. Rain stared up at the dark glass above. You saw it now, she said coldly. You saw what built us. Kallax replied, why would nature build something so violent? Rain shrugged. It didn't. We built ourselves. She pointed at the DN, a hologram still spinning in the air. Those mutations you hate? Those are the scars of every war, every plague, every mistake. We learned. We changed. Your species avoids pain. Ours became strong because of it. Alien fear. Back in the observation room, Zirak sat down slowly. I don't think she's the strongest human, he said. She might not even be average. Kallax's voice was tight. Then what are the others like? Zirak whispered. What if their chaos isn't the problem? What if it's their design? Kallax looked at Rain on the screen. She was stretching again, smiling like nothing had happened. We must go deeper, he said, but carefully. Final scene. Something hidden later that night. The lab was quiet. Zirak walked past the DNA chamber again. The human samples they took were glowing softly, too softly. He looked closer. One of the samples had changed shape. Not randomly dash, intentionally dot. The base pairs were rearranging themselves, forming something new. Zirak's blood ran cold. Doctor, he called. You need to see this. The lights inside the Zernax medical lab dimmed for just a moment, barely noticeable dot. But for Zirak, it was enough to set off alarm bells. He looked up from his station. Across the room, a glowing containment tank showed strands of floating human DNA taken from Lieutenant Rain Carter 2 days earlier. Now it was moving, not just shifting, not just reacting to temperature. The strands were twisting into new shapes on their own. Zirak's voice shook. Dr. Kallax, something is happening. The impossible mutation. Klax stepped up beside him. Explain. Zirak pointed at the screen. The human DNA is not just mutating, it's organizing. Choosing. Kallax frowned. DNA doesn't make choices. Rain's voice echoed over the speaker. She was still in her cell, watching everything. Maybe yours doesn't, she said, grinning. but ours never plays by the rules. Kelak stared at the sample. Is she influencing it? From a distance, Zirak swallowed. That would mean it's networked somehow. Kelak shook his head. No, it's responding to the environment. It's fighting. The second toxin test, they decided to escalate. Kelak ordered a second. Test stronger than before. Inject her with Tox 9, he said. It breaks cellular structure. No species can survive it. Zirak hesitated. But what if she do it? Kelak snapped. We must know the limits. Inside the chamber, a needle silently jabbed into Rain's neck. She flinched slightly, then sat down on the floor. Her hands began to shake. She felt her veins burn, her stomach twist. She was sweating, coughing, losing control. Kelak watched closely. This is where she breaks. But she doesn't break. Rain curled into herself, breathing fast. Then something changed. Her pupils narrowed. Her body temperature adjusted. Her cells on every monitor began rewriting themselves. Zirak stared. Doctor, her DNA is absorbing the toxin, turning it into fuel. Kelak's voice was low. No, that's not possible. Rain opened her eyes. Her skin shimmered slightly, her body adapting to the poison dot. She looked straight at the nearest camera. You're not testing me anymore, she said coldly. You're training me. The data spread suddenly. Alerts flashed across the lab. Other DNA samples, the ones stored in different tanks, began reacting, but no one had touched them. Zirak ran to the screen. Doctor, look, her DNA strain is copying itself. It's moving across our systems, mutating other samples. Kelak slammed his hand on the table. Shut it down. Technicians tried, but the virus had already spread. The DNA was jumping between containers, rewriting alien cell cultures. One creature, an insectoid, test subject, began twitching violently in its tank. Then it stopped. Its biology was changed. Zirak whispered, her DNA is fighting everything, and it's winning. Alien panic in the upper control center. Alarms blared. A senior Zernax commander appeared on the screen. What is happening in your lab, Dr. Kelak? Kelak tried to stay calm. A genetic cascade. Containment is failing. The commander stared. Is this from the human? Kelak hesitated. Yes. The commander's voice turned cold. You were warned not to bring unstable species into the Empire. Purge the lab immediately. Kelak turned off the link and looked at Zirak. We are not destroying this. We are documenting history. Zirak shook his head. This isn't history, sir. This is evolution under pressure. Rain's recovery back in her cell. Rain stood slowly. Her heart beat strong. Her blood was clear. Whatever toxin they used, her body now recognized it, neutralized it, improved because of it. She looked around and saw the panic in their faces. For the first time, she realized something. They're afraid of me now, and she liked that. Zirak's doubt that night. While Kelak reviewed data, Zirak sat alone in the gene lab. He watched the recordings of Rain's DNA, a changing, spreading, teaching other cells. It wasn't random. It was intelligent. He whispered to himself, what if this isn't evolution? He looked at the screen again. What if this is design? Final scene. The first infection in a distant room. One of the alien scientists coughed. He dropped his tools. His skin turned pale, his veins glowing faint blue. Zirak ran to him. What happened? The scientist looked up. My genes ... they're changing. And then he smiled. The lab was quiet, but the air was heavy. The alien scientists still struggled to understand the strange power locked inside. Lieutenant Rain Carter. Kelak sat before a console. He tapped a few commands, activating a neural interface, a device designed to link directly to a subject's memories. Zirak watched nervously. Are you sure this is safe? Kelak nodded. We must know why humans survive chaos. Their DNA reacts like nothing else. Maybe their memories hold answers. Entering the mind, Rain sat in the center of the chamber, wires attached gently to her temples. She was calm, too calm. "Ready when you are," she said softly. Kellex activated the link. The room around the scientists faded. They found themselves inside a flickering vision, a collection of images and feelings from Rain's mind. The war zone, a flickering vision, a flickering vision, a flickering vision of images and feelings from Rain's mind. The war zone, a flickering vision. First memory hit hard. Gunfire, explosions, shouts, chaos. Rain was running through a burning city, smoke choking the sky. Around her, people screamed and fell. She grabbed a young child, dragging him to safety. His face was pale, scared. The aliens watched in shock as Rain's mind replayed years of human conflict wars. Disasters, near-dash extinctions. Zirk whispered, "So much pain. How does she survive all this?" Kellex said quietly, "It's not just survival, it's training." Frozen wasteland. The scene shifted, snow and ice. Rain was in thick clothing, crawling through a blizzard. Her breath froze in the air. Her hands were numb and bleeding, but she kept moving. The aliens could feel the cold, the desperation. And still, Rain did not give up. "This is her willpower," Kellex said. "Her mind fights chaos as much as her body." The healing. Another memory. Rain lying wounded, alone in a desert sun. Her arm broken. Thirst burning. She used a piece of cloth to tie a makeshift sling. She found water, then food, using nothing but her instincts and knowledge. Adaptation born from pain, Zirk murmured. Kellex nodded. Her DNA remembers more than just biology. It holds experience. It holds lessons. The meaning of chaos back. In the real world, Rain's eyes opened. She looked at the scientists calmly. "You saw my past," she said. Kellex nodded. "We saw your battles, your suffering. But why do you think your DNA is so chaotic?" Rain leaned forward. "Because chaos makes us alive. Without it, humans break. We grow stronger because we have to." She smiled faintly. "The errors you see are scars, proof we survived the impossible." Zirk's revelation. Zirk stood quietly after the session ended. He stared at the glowing DNA strands in the lab. What if the chaos isn't a mistake? He wondered aloud. What if it's the point? Kellex replied, "Then humans aren't flawed. They are designed for chaos." Zirk's eyes widened. "That means their DNA is a weapon, not just a code." A new threat. Suddenly, alarms blared. A technician shouted, "Containment breach. Human DNA samples are mutating faster than expected." Kellex grabbed his tablet. "Prepare for emergency lockdown." Rain's voice echoed from her cell. "You can't stop chaos. It's already inside." The lab doors slammed shut. The true test was just beginning. The Zernax research station was silent. Too silent. Dr. Kellex stood before the central control chamber, staring at the holographic plan that hovered in the air. It showed the shape of a world, not a real one, but a simulated environment built by the Zernax over centuries. It was called the Cauldron. "This is where we'll find her limits," Kellex said. Zirk hesitated. "No species has survived the full cycle. Even Deathworlders break inside the cauldron." Kellex didn't look away. "Let's see what chaos does in chaos." Into the simulation. Rain was escorted to a new chamber. This one was different. Black walls, circular floor. The hum of powerful machines surrounded her. A calm voice said, "Welcome to Simulation World 43X the Cauldron." She raised an eyebrow. Catchy name. Suddenly, the world around her vanished. The first trial. Fire Rain stood in a burning forest. Trees collapsed in flame. Ash filled the sky. The air was hot and dry. The ground cracked beneath her boots. A roar echoed. From the fire came creatures, twisted, winged, snapping with sharp teeth. They flew fast, hunting by heat. Rain didn't. "Scream," She moved. She leapt over a log, rolled under a tree, grabbed a broken branch, and set a trap using burning vines. When the creatures attacked, she dodged, stabbed, and survived. The second trial. Flood the fire disappeared. Now she stood. In a flooded city, water surged through the streets. Broken cars floated past her. The rain was heavy. A tidal wave approached. Rain scanned her surroundings and ran. She climbed up a shattered building, pulling herself up with soaked wires and beams. When the water hit, she held on and didn't let go. Her lungs screamed. Her arms burned. But she refused to drown at the third trial. Isolation next. The simulation changed. Rain stood in a dark cave, alone. No noise, no light, just silence. Time passed. Hours? Days? Most species broke here, mind destroyed by silence. Rain sat down, closed her eyes, and waited. Her own voice echoed in her head. You are stronger than this. You always were. She didn't break. Zernak's control room. Xerax stared at the screen in disbelief. She's passed all 3 trials, he whispered. She's not just surviving, she's learning. Kellax leaned forward. Increase difficulty. Let the cauldron rage. Final trial. Total collapse. The simulation twisted. Everything. Fire, flood, storm, and silence hit her at once. The ground crumbled. Gravity shifted. The sky cracked open. Creatures screamed from the clouds. Buildings fell like cards, but rain adapted. She used a metal panel to shield herself. She made a weapon from debris. She timed each move with precision. Her instincts were faster. Her strength sharper. She didn't just survive the chaos, she mastered it. Simulation ends everything. Vanished. Rain stood in a blank white room, breathing hard. Blood on her face. Clothes torn, but she smiled. The floor opened below her, and she dropped back into the real world. Alien. Shokalax turned away from the screen, shaken. No one has ever passed the full cauldron. Xerax's voice was low. She didn't pass. She broke it. They looked at the data. Her vitals were stronger than before. Her DNA had changed again. What is she becoming? One scientist whispered. Rain's voice echoed over the speaker. You tried to control chaos, but chaos doesn't follow rules. Final scene. Seeds of mutation. Later, in the containment lab. The creatures from the simulation just bits of code. And light had somehow left traces on the system. One of the test subjects, an alien rodent, began twitching. Its eyes turned green. Its cells started to shift. Xerax watched, horrified. Her DNA. It's leaking into everything. The Zernax lab was no longer quiet. Warning lights flashed in every hall. Screens showed chaotic data. Security bots rolled through corridors, scanning for threats. And in the center of it all stood Dr. Kellax, his eyes wide with disbelief. Xerax ran into the command room, panting. It's not just inside Rain anymore, it's everywhere. Kellax looked up. Explain. Xerax showed the readings. Her DNA, her adaptive code has jumped into our systems. It's spreading through the lab's organic interface, through the air filters, through the water. Kellax stared. That's impossible, but deep inside. He knew it. WASN single quotes T. Infected in the bioholding cells. Test subjects twisted and writhed. A plant-based life form grew thorns it had never had. Before a water-dwelling species developed lungs and began walking on dry land. A Zernak scientist collapsed, screaming as his skin turned gray and hardened like armor. His blood changed color. Xerax whispered, "They're not just mutating. They're becoming something else." Rain watches from her containment cell. Rain watched the chaos unfold. On the screen, she leaned back against the wall, arms crossed. "You thought you could use us. Cut us apart. Break us down," she said softly. "But humans don't just survive. We infect the system." She smiled. You invited the chaos in. Now it lives here. Internal mutation. Zirak grabbed his own hand. It was trembling. He scanned himself. His blood showed trace human markers. Somehow, exposure to a single sample from Rain had started rewriting parts of him. Doctor, I think I'm changing. Kallax looked away. Seal yourself in isolation. Zirak hesitated. But what if the mutation helps? What if it's evolving us? Kallax snapped. That is not evolution. It's corruption. System lockdown fails. They tried everything. Decontamination. Purging air systems. Wiping biodata cores. Nothing worked. The station lights flickered. Environmental controls dropped. Rain's DNA had learned the system, adapted to it, and now controlled it. It was a living virus, powered by survival, by memory, by chaos. Alien uprising, across the lab. Zernak scientists turned on one another. Some believed the mutation was deadly. Others believed it was the next step. One shouted, "She's not killing us, she's upgrading us." Another screamed, "She's erasing everything we are." Rain watched the arguments with a quiet expression. "You gave me the test," she whispered. "Now it's your turn." Kallax's final Ordurkalax, sweating and pale, hit a red button on the console. "All systems, prepare for base self-destruction." Zirak shouted, "You can't. We'll destroy everything." Kallax replied, "If we don't, this DNA, this human plague will spread across the stars." But it was too late. The command failed. The computer voice replied, "Order denied. System control transferred to Chaos Protocol." Rain's voice echoed across the station. "Nice try." Final scene. The beginning of something new somewhere in the lower levels. A Zernak's child, sick, born with weak bones, suddenly stood up straight. His skin shimmered. His eyes glowed softly. He didn't understand why, but for the first time in his life, he felt no pain, no weakness, just strength. And far above, Rain smiled. "Your DNA wasn't broken. It was just unprepared." The Zernak station groaned under its own systems. Lights dimmed, doors glitched open and shut. Sirens rang, but no one followed them anymore. In the center cell, Lieutenant Rain Carter stood perfectly still. Her breathing was slow, calm. The wall before her shimmered, then vanished. Not opened, vanished. A mechanical voice said, "Containment protocol released by dominant biological override." Rain stepped out. Walking through the chaos, she moved through empty halls filled with flickering lights and broken equipment. Strange growths pulsed on the walls. Organic matter changed by her DNA. But Rain wasn't afraid. Every camera watched her. Every sensor followed her steps, and none of them stopped her. She was no longer a prisoner. She was the system's center. Friend in trouble. Down a lower hall, Rain saw a clear wall. Behind it, Zirak lay on the floor, sweating and shaking. His skin had patches of discoloration. His eyes were dull. The mutation had reached him. He looked up weakly. "You came back?" Rain pressed a button. The wall slid open. "You helped me." "I don't forget that," Zirak gasped. "Why are you helping me? You could leave, escape, let us fall." Rain looked at him. "We don't win by becoming monsters. That's not what chaos is. It's choice. I choose to save you." Healed by the chaos, Rain knelt beside him and placed a small patch from her survival kit on his chest. But it wasn't the patch that mattered. It was her DNA. Her presence. Her body was now more than human. It was living adaptation. Within minutes, Zirak stopped shaking. His skin normalized. His pulse leveled. His body began to repair itself. Tears formed in his alien eyes. "You didn't kill me." Rain smiled. "Humans break limits, not people." Alien. Council watches in a hidden transmission room. A group of high Zernax officials watched the feed from the lab. "What is she doing?" One asked. "She's healing them." But why? "She's already won. The chaos obeys her. She could destroy us, Another said softly. Maybe ... That's what makes her dangerous. Escape path. Rain and Zirak moved through the last security gate. It tried to lock them inside, but the door simply opened. Zirak whispered, "It knows you." Rain nodded. "It's not a station anymore. It's part of me." Outside, a stolen Zernak's shuttle sat waiting. Rain climbed inside. Rain's message before launch. Rain recorded a short message. It played on every channel the station had. She stood before the camera, calm and steady. "To whoever's watching, you saw our DNA and laughed. You called it broken, flawed, chaotic, but chaos isn't weakness. It's evolution without permission. It's survival with memory. It's hope when logic says run. And it lives in us. All of us. If you want to understand humanity, don't study our code. Watch what we choose to do with it." Final scene, liftoff. The shuttle engines fired. Rain and Zirak launched into space, leaving the station behind. Below them, the base still shifted, alive, pulsing, forever changed, but not destroyed. Rain looked ahead. "Let's see who else thinks." "We're broken," she said. And then they vanished into the stars. The Zernak's High Council met in their grand chamber, a wide, circular room filled with glowing symbols, floating scrolls, and cold silence. The screen in the center showed only one thing. Now a human face, Lieutenant Rain Carter, calm, focused, eyes sharp as blades. She wasn't sending a message. She was delivering a warning. Broadcast. Across the stars, the message played not just on Zernak's screens, but across the galaxy. Pirate ships heard it. Trade stations paused to listen. Diplomats froze. In shock, even faraway planets that had never seen a human before now saw one. Rain's words. "You studied us. You tested us. You thought our DNA was a mistake. But every error in our code, every mutation, every instability, it's not broken. It's built for something you never planned for. The end. When order fails, when your rules collapse, that's where we begin. Because humans don't survive despite chaos. We survive because of it." She paused. And then she said the words that would echo through history. Asterisk, asterisk. "You wanted to break us. But we were designed to break you." Asterisk, asterisk. The lab aftermath. Back at the Zernak's research station, strange things were still happening. Alien plants began glowing with warmth never seen before. Test animals grew stronger, smarter. A once dying AI system rebooted itself and began learning at impossible speed. The chaos Rain left behind wasn't just destruction. It was a seed, a living upgrade. Zirak's journal far away in the shuttle. Zirak sat alone, typing into a glowing journal. "The chaos is not a virus. It's a path. Rain showed us that being perfect means nothing if you can't adapt. She gave me a second chance, not by removing the chaos, but by sharing it." He looked toward the stars. "I think Earth was never the weak link. It might be the blueprint." The Galactic reaction. Alien species argued in council rooms. "Humans are dangerous," some shouted. "They must be destroyed." But others whispered, "Maybe they're what we need." Even Deathworld species, feared across the stars, watched the message and felt something. Rare Kalan feared. Because they saw the truth. The humans were not surviving. They were changing the game. Final scene. Human territory on a space station orbiting Earth. A group of human soldiers received the intercepted message. They cheered, laughed. One said, "That's Rain, all right. Told him off with style." Another leaned forward. "You think the Zernaks will come for us now?" The officer smirked. Think twice.